All right. So I don't think you should struggle at all, really, with these graphs, writing the equations for the line. This one here, number 17. Remember, the ones that are straight across have no slope. So if we put a 0 next to the x, it's nothing. So this would just be y equals 2 because it crosses at the positive 2. Don't want you to be tricked by that one. Starting at number 20, now you're going to have to, well, now that's what we were working on yesterday. So change this to y-intercept form and then graph it. But that's not what we're working on today. Okay, so that's that packet. Here's a packet. It's got answers. That's good. First 2 pages, you're just writing equations of the line, which is the skill we were just working on. Let's do one. How about let's do number 1. Number 1's what I'm looking for. Okay. Why don't you go ahead and try number 1 and then come back. All right, so let's go back and take a look at that problem. I'm not going to draw this one on the board. I'm just going to go through it on the screen. So here's the problem. And remember, we are first trying to find the slope of the line. Slope of the line has 2 parts to it: which direction's it going and how fast is it going there. Okay, so the direction is headed downward from left to right. It's decreasing. And so we're going to show that by making the slope a negative number. Now, the number itself is going to be the rise over the run. So we need to find 2 points on this graph where the line crosses at an intersection. Okay, and so we can see right here the y-intercept is a point that the line crosses at an intersection. And if we follow the line down, the next point would be right here at 2, 1. And so that's going to be our second point. That's going to be where we make our slope triangle. Okay, so we go draw our triangle down and over, down and over. So it's going to be a negative 1, 2, 3, down 3, over 2, down 3, over 2. Down 3, over 2. So let's take a look at that. Down 3, over 2. Negative's the down, here's the rise and the run. So when we go to put it into our equation, it's always going to be y and x. Y equals negative 3 over 2x. Now, where does that line cross? Where does it cross? And if you take a look at that, you can see it crosses at the positive 4. That's the y-intercept of that line. So there's an equation for that line. Okay, you really shouldn't struggle with writing an equation of a line because we've worked a lot on slope, and y-intercept is something that's really easy to see on a graph. So as long as you can get that slope right, really writing the equation of a line on a graph is fairly easy to do. Okay, so let's take a look at what else I have for you. Okay, what if you don't have a graph? What if you are just going from points? Okay, so we have function tables here, and really that's full of points. And so let's just start with this first one. Don't forget what 2 things we need to write an equation of a line. We need slope and we need y-intercept. So that first day, actually it was the second day this week on Tuesday, I sent out the slope videos and we talked a lot about how to find slope. Part of it, the videos were on the graphs like we just did, but the other part of the videos were on how to find slope from 2 points. If you remember, when that happens, we're going to go to our formula sheet that we're going to have on our test, and we're going to find the formula for finding slope from 2 points. Okay, so if you forget what that is or you don't have your formula sheet handy, let's review. Slope from 2 points is going to be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. On the formula sheet, it also has this. Your x's cannot be equal. x1 cannot be equal to x2 because then it's not a function, okay? That's a straight up and down line. So we're really focused on this part, all right? So even though now we're not just finding slope of a line, we're trying to write an equation, we need the slope. So we have to think back to how we did that, okay? So on our worksheet, if we want to go back to that worksheet, notice we have all these points that represent this line. We only need 2 of them, okay? I like positive numbers. So I'm going to pick this pair, or this pair of coordinates, 4, 1, and 5, 2, okay? And I'm going to take that and I'm going to run it through the formula to figure out what's the slope of this line, okay? So my 2 points are 4, 1, and 5, 2. I want to reiterate that it doesn't matter which 2 points you pick in this table, okay? You can pick the first pair and the last pair. It doesn't matter. Once you simplify your slope, you should have the exact same slope, okay? All right, let's go back. So here we are. I picked 2 points. I laid out what they are. Now I'm going to find the slope. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 2 minus 1, 5 minus 4. Last step is simplify. 1 divided by 1 is 1. So it's a positive 1 for my slope. I can now begin writing the equation. Y equals mx. M is the slope. 1. So I can put a 1 there, but I really don't need to. 1x plus b. So let's go back to our worksheet. This is maybe probably more of the confusing part, this next section, which is how do we find the y-intercept when we only have coordinates, okay? On a graph, it's easy. We look and see where the line crosses the y. But how do we do that here? Okay, we don't have an equation. So what we need to know is that an equation of a line, y equals mx plus b, is a very useful tool, okay? Y equals mx plus b. Come back to me here. All right, so I'm going to erase this. You hopefully know that part of it, but I need this section. So we're going back to y equals mx plus b. This is the equation of a line, okay? What we just figured out using the table and these 2 coordinates was that the slope is 1. So now we need to find the b. We don't have a way to do it though, except we do, okay? We have everything in this formula. Everything in this equation, we can put something in there and leave out the b to solve for b. Okay, I know that wasn't really clear, but let's take a look. We already know that the m is 1, okay? We know that we're trying to find b, so we're going to leave that as b. But do I have something that I can fill in for x and y that's true for this line? And I do. I have lots of somethings, actually. Here's an x and a y that go with this line. This is also an x and a y that goes with this line. Any of those other coordinates that were in that same table can work. There's an x and a y for this line. So here's the trick to finding the b. You take an x and a y from that line and you plug it in along with the slope that we've already found. Okay, so let's do 4 and 1. It doesn't matter. You're going to get the same answer no matter which one you use, okay? So let's do 4 and 1. 4 is x, 1 is y, okay? So 1 is y. My slope is 1. I found that earlier here. X, the x I'm using is 4, and I don't know b, okay? But what I've done is I've created an equation with information from this line, and I've left out b because I don't know what b is. But by leaving it as b, I'm going to solve for it using algebra, okay? So start here. 1 times 4 is 4. Bring down. Okay, I want to get b alone, so I'm going to get rid of this 4. Subtract 4 from both sides, and I'm left with -3. Okay, so my b for this line is -3, which means now I have all the information I need to write the equation of the line. I have the slope as 1. I'll just write it there so that it's clear. And now I know that the y-intercept is a -3, a -3. So technically, this would be the equation for that first table. Okay, this is probably the hardest thing that we're doing today, right here. Okay, let's try another one. Number 2, all right? Here's the table. So here's what I want you to do. Even if that wasn't completely clear, you should be able to, sorry. We're doing this one here. Okay, find the slope. Find the slope of that. And if you feel comfortable with what I just did, then go ahead and try to find the b. But for right now, I want you to start with finding the slope and then come back to me, unpause it, and watch how I find the equation of the line. Okay, so go ahead and pause your screen, find the slope, and then if you want to try to find the b, go ahead, but usually it's going to take a couple examples before you get that. So, all right, go for it. Okay, so here is the table. Again, I just told you to find the slope. I didn't tell you which points to pick, but it doesn't matter which points you pick, okay? So I'm gonna purposely pick points that you probably did not pick, just to show you that you should get the same slope no matter what, okay? So I'll pick this coordinate and this coordinate, okay? The first one and the fourth one. And I'm gonna run those through my formula from the formula sheet, okay? y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which is a -1. If I was doing this, I wouldn't have picked this first one because of that negative. I prefer not to deal with them. But I did, so minus and negative changes to plus positive. 11 minus 4 is going to be a 7. And then 6 plus 1 is also 7. 7 divided by 7, last step is simplify, and what we get is 1 again. Slope is 1. I can go ahead and start my equation if you want. Y equals 1x. The slope is always attached to the x, so that's what I just figured out. Okay, now we need to get the b. We need to get the b. So, in order to get the b, we use y equals mx plus b. So I can use any of these coordinates. I just need to pick an x and a y that go together on this line, okay? So 7, 12, 6, 11, 4, 9, 2, 7, doesn't matter. You're gonna get the same thing for b if you do it correctly. And I'll actually solve this twice using different coordinates just to see you're gonna get the same b, okay? So how about I do 7 for y, that's a y, equals my slope is 1, x that goes with the 7 is a 2. I'm leaving my b as b. I don't know what that is. I'm solving for it. Okay, now we do the algebra. 1 times 2, bring down, get b alone. And what I'm left with is b is 5, positive. Positive 5. So that's the rest of my equation. Plus 5. Again, if you were going to see this equation, you would not see 1x. If it's 1, you don't need to write it, okay? So really the most simple equation for that line would be y is equal to x plus 5. And notice that works for any of these. Whatever x is, y is going to be 5 more. -1 plus 5 is 4. 2 plus 5. 4 plus 5. 6 plus 5. It works, okay? But I'm going to go ahead and show you again. I'm going to solve for b using a different one. That time I used 2, 7. Now I think I'll use 6, 11 and just show you that my b is still going to be 5. So y, I said I'm going to do 6, 11. So y is 11. My slope is 1. My x is 6 plus b. All right. 6 plus b equals 11. Get b alone. B is still 5. It will be for all these. All right. So when you are trying to write an equation of a line from 2 points, what you got to do first is get your slope, because you can do that. You can get your slope from 2 points. Once you know your slope, then you go back to slope-intercept form, okay? Because you have your slope. You also have x's and y's for your line that you're going to pick one pair that goes in here, leaving the only variable as b. And then once you solve for b, then you know what the y-intercept is. If you know what the slope is and you know what the y-intercept is, then you can write the equation of the line.